For someone who started this channel making a lot of Avatar The Last Airbender videos, I sure have not made a lot recently. And there are a few major reasons for that, but the most important reason is simply that there hasn't been a lot of information coming out in the last couple of years. There was that whole chaos with Konietzko and DiMartino being a part of the live-action adaptation and then leaving it and then going off to do their own thing in Avatar Studios. But other than that, there hasn't been a lot of concrete developments regarding the franchise. But now we do have a huge piece of news to talk about, and that is simply this, that filming has started on the Netflix live-action Avatar adaptation. Filming will continue for 6 months, unless something goes terribly cataclysmically wrong, which, who knows, maybe it will. I've learned not to take anything for granted these last couple of years, but assuming nothing goes wrong, filming will wrap around May, and the show will hopefully premiere by late next year, or about a year from when I'm making this video. That may seem like a long wait, but at least it is progress, which is something I have desperately been yearning for in regards to this live-action project for the last couple of years. I have thought that they would cancel it as soon as Konietzko and DiMartino left. It had been basically flailing in the water for the last several years. It was announced in September, very close to my birthday, a long time ago, September 2018, I believe. And only now, here in late 2021, are we seeing real movement on the show. Likely spurred on by how successful the original animated Avatar was for Netflix when they got the rights to it and aired it, and it became a hugely popular show during the summer of 2020. It looks like the show has just kept on chugging, and here we are. To its credit, the show has demonstrated that, if nothing else, it is at least going to try to be good, unlike the Shyamalan movie, which had no chance of being good. And it has assembled a virtuoso cast. There are still some roles that have not yet been cast, at least to our knowledge, such as Yue, Azula, and Suki. But hopefully those casting announcements will be made pretty soon. We already have our main 6, meaning Aang, Sokka, Katara, and Zuko, our 4 younger leads, and also the Fire Lord, our main villain, and Zuko's lovable, enigmatic, philosophical, and very helpful uncle, Iroh. All of those 6 roles have now been cast. And the casting is quite impressive. Now, obviously, a great cast is not necessarily a guarantee of success. I recently started watching Netflix's adaptation of Cowboy Bebop, and the casting for that show is impressive. They chose the right actors for the roles. John Cho as Spike is good. He inhabits that character's pain and longing and malaise. And the problem is not the aesthetic of the show either, which might try a little too hard to capture the plasticity and malleability of animation, where you can do anything if you have the commitment for it and the technical skill. The only limit is your imagination. Live action can't do that, and when it tries, it can be a little awkward. Hopefully that isn't a problem for the Avatar show, but who knows. But that's not really what the problem for this Cowboy Bebop adaptation is. Rather, I'd say the problem is that it tries so hard to capture the look of the original and to get the casting right that the actual substance of the show, its actual heart and tone, are thrown out. The writing is rather limp, and I'm never sure what the show wants to be. I don't quite need it to try to capture the existential, anxious dread of the original, which depicts these burnt-out adults who've already lost so many people in their lives and have already suffered so much failure and regret, just trying to race around, help out other people, and try to pay their bills. That's a very specific atmosphere and tone it cultivates, drawing on everything from, yes, bebop in the 40s and 50s, to noir, to French existentialism. All these influences that shouldn't come together into a coherent package, but absolutely do. The new show, however, doesn't really know what it wants to be. It wears all these genres like costumes. It clearly cares about the original show, and I think that's important to point out. So many fanboys love saying that the problem with these adaptations is that no one's a fan of the original, and that's just complete nonsense. Fan service does not make good shows. Just being a supporter and an aficionado of a work does not mean you are necessarily going to be able to carry that work into a coherent adaptation. Now, possibly the problems that plague this Cowboy Bebop adaptation will also plague the Avatar adaptation. I don't know. Hollywood does not have a great track record at turning animation into live action. But I will say that they appear to be on the right direction, at least in terms of the casting, and we should extend to them the benefit of the doubt. I think they've earned that at this point. Daniel Dae Kim has been cast as Fire Lord Ozai, and Paul Sun-hyung Lee has been cast as Uncle Iroh. These are casting choices that a lot of people in the fandom expected ahead of time, and they were not wrong to want these casting choices because they're great choices. I'm not at all surprised that, say, I saw a post on Reddit a while back saying that Paul Sun-hyung Lee should be Iroh that got like 4,000 upvotes. These two actors seem like they are the right people to bring the spirit of these characters into the live-action adaptation, while also making these characters their own, and not just slavishly trying to copy the originals. Now, if you are an Avatar fan and you don't think you're familiar with Daniel Dae Kim, well, you are. He voiced General Fong, the crazed but well-intentioned Earth Kingdom general who is trying to force Aang into the Avatar state in the episode called The Avatar State, the Season 2 premiere. More relevantly, I think, he voiced Hiroshi Sato, Asami's father and one of the secondary villains of The Legend of Korra in that show. He will definitely bring a different approach to Ozai than we saw Mark Hamill bring in the original. Ozai is not this hyper-aggressive, really buff and overtly masculine kind of villain. He's not the kind of guy who stomps around like a brute and yells about conquest all the time. Just looking at him, you would not immediately know that he's a monster, and I think that's a big part of the mystique of Ozai. And I really like that Daniel Dae Kim is not domineering. Even in his villain roles, there is a level of restraint and control. He seems like the kind of person who could be reasonable, so when he turns out not to be reasonable in his villain roles, it comes as a surprise. Even a character like Hiroshi, or General Fong, is initially introduced as sympathetic. And he can also play good and moral fathers, as we saw in Raya and the Last Dragon. Mark Hamill's Ozai sneers. He does not overtly demonstrate to the outside world that he's a monster, but Zuko is very clear that he is a monster. Zuko couldn't not be clear about that, considering what Ozai did to him. So, Hamill, he doesn't chew on the scenery, and I think his performance as Ozai is good, but I'm not sure it's quite the same as would work in live action. It's not as grounded as the performance I believe Daniel Day Kim will give. Now, on to Lee as Uncle Iroh. Lee is probably best known to y'all as the family patriarch Appa, no relation to our Avatar Appa. It's just the Korean word for father. Or dad, really. The actual father word is more formal, but that's getting off topic. But he is a great choice. Obviously, he's not going to be playing the same character he plays on Kim's Convenience, but he does have that same kind of mischievous, playful, almost impish energy as Iroh. Iroh is much more Zhuangzi than Confucius, so to speak. He is not this stern, impossibly wise figure that one can just listen to and instantly know all the secrets of the universe. In fact, some people might not think he's wise at all if they haven't listened to him. And Iroh doesn't care about that. He does not need people to revere him. He has chosen to leave the life of power and conquest and domination. Ozai, with help from his wife, Ursa, forced Iroh out of the line of succession after Iroh's son died, just so Ozai could take the throne himself. But not becoming Fire Lord was not the worst thing that could have happened to Iroh. After losing his son, after seeing all the work he's put into being the brave and noble and loyal and patriotic prince of the Fire Nation crumble beneath him, he reconsiders. He becomes much more overtly spiritual. He always had that tinge to him, as we see in the Avatar flashbacks, and he always was a little kooky. He loved his tea, but those elements of his character are exaggerated afterwards. He doesn't try to beat Zuko over the head with certain ideas or philosophies. He's fine if Zuko thinks he's kind of a fool or an idiot at some point. He doesn't take it personally. All he hopes is that Zuko will find the right path, and sometimes he feels that kind of playing the goof will help Zuko, and I think Lee will bring that same sort of energy to the role without just trying to copy the performance you see Mako and Greg Baldwin after that give as Iroh. So I'm really fascinated to see what Lee in fact does with that role. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. What do you think is going to happen in this Avatar remake? What do you think it will change from the original? Are you excited about this remake? What do you think about the casting? It's going to be interesting to see if the show does in fact turn out to be good. But I suppose all we can do is wait at this point. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. That I can promise you. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.